I wanted to do a quick video talking about planning versus not planning your album in terms of doing foundation pages. So, foundation pages are when you create the pages ahead of time and then add the stories and the photos later. Now, that can be very regimented in terms of I have a page for every single day, or it could be a little bit looser in that I have specific products that I want to use and I'm not sure what day they're going to go on, but I'm going to put them in my album so that they're ready to go. Other times you're not going to do foundation pages at all. Your album is totally going to be created based on what happened that day or what that story is that you want to tell, and maybe based around your photos. So I want to show examples of all of those so that you get the idea. And so I have my albums here for 2023 and 2024 so that I can kind of talk about each of those. So for 2023, none of the album was planned out. I did have a few kind of ideas of things that I wanted to do, like this title page, because I had the sticker that said 2023. I knew that I wanted to use it on a title page. I also knew that I wanted to use this paper. I also had the inserts that came in the album, and so I had those as well. And from there, I made a few pages ahead of time, but it was very, very loose. So I had November. I planned this out ahead of time. I knew I wanted to use these cards, and that's all I knew. Okay, so leading into it, I knew we were going to have a picture of our meal. I was hoping to get a picture of pie because I had the pie stickers, but whatever else we did really depended on that day. And then everything in this album is kind of driven by, you know, the stories, or in some cases, the little stamps that I had that were the monogram and then the word. So this was December. So I kind of built it as I went along with the photos. So, you know, here, you know, the second I wanted to do a Grinch Day, I knew I had these. And so, you know, when I was preparing and I had the photos, I could plan out a picture of, you know, Tom decorating the tree and some Grinch stuff. I could go by what was kind of happening at that time and then build the album around the story that I wanted to tell. I actually saw something like this online. I had done something like this before where it was a pile of the pajamas. And so I knew that was going to be the fourth because I had this little tag with 4 spots. And so then I could build around the photo. I always do work things randomly. It seemed to work that I had the journaling piece here. So it was really built around the photos. I had the photos, built the album kind of around that, you know, with some of the ideas ahead of time of things I wanted to do, products that I wanted to use that were in my stash that I had never used before, you know, especially things that are numbered. Wanted to do some of these things that kind of drove the stories, but then the stories also drove the products used. So it's kind of, the album came together after I had the photos, after I had the stories, and I was able to grab things that supported those stories, keeping in mind some of the ideas of things that I wanted to do, like this grid of my favorite ornaments, or ornaments that I wanted to highlight. So it was kind of driven around that. The pages were built as I was living the stories and taking those photos. In comparison to 2024, and the reason for that was this was the year that I did the Evergreen Season bundle from 49 a Market and the Air stores. So signed up for the bundle with Simple Pleasures and attended the crops and the kind of, you know, make and takes and the shares. And I built the album ahead of time. Every page was created ahead of time so that when December came, my album was already done. All I needed to do was take the photos that would go in my album. Okay. So For instance, I created this Halloween page. I knew I needed 3 photos. Okay. Thanksgiving came. I knew I needed a big photo and 2 other little photos. I knew for the 9th I needed 2 photos because that's the spots that I had. On our anniversary, I knew I needed a big photo of us, and I needed some photos that would go on the inside of this flap. Okay, so I could take photos knowing what I needed, and it was all kind of pre-planned around that, but also there were days that I had no idea what the story would be. So here's a good example. I did this page with the circles. I didn't know what the story was going to be until I kind of went through December and was like, oh, I want to do a page about the new pencil tree in my scrapbooking room / office. And then, you know, our dog was there sleeping underneath it because he thought it was so cool. So in that way, I kind of had to pre-plan what some of these pages would be. I had to think ahead, but also then it was done so that I could make things fit. Now, which way is better really depends on the way you want to experience things. If you have a really, really busy December, then pre-planning and doing some of your pages probably would be the best for you. I would say though, get a calendar and write out what you're doing. Because I knew what I was going to be doing in December for most of the days, then it was easier to plan the book and do the foundation pages because I knew what I was doing. So for instance, here, I knew I was going to be in Atlanta for work from the 1st to the 6th. And when I returned, it was going to be the holiday party. So I could very easily plan out, okay, so I'm going there on the 1st. I want probably a photo of me in the car. Okay, wrote that on a list. And I also knew I was going to go to Hamlet at the Shakespeare Tavern. So I used this flip page from scrapbook.com, knowing that I would need 5 photos because I had my journaling ready to go. I needed 6 photos. 2, 4, 6. Okay. And I had this piece. Everything else was open and waiting. So I made sure that I took 6 photos. Okay. The 2nd, I was still in Atlanta. The 2nd would have been my mom's birthday. I knew I was going to have a picture of mom here, and I was going to do something Grinchy that day. I knew I was going to wear my Grinch necklace that I just got. I got back to the hotel and they happened to be showing Grinch on TV. So that was just really the universe aligning with me. And so those were my 2 photos, but I knew that I needed those photos. So I had a list of all the photos that I needed. Now, what I was going to do on the 3rd and 4th, I had no idea. I knew I was going to do 3 stories here, and I knew I was doing training and meetings, so that's what I talk about here, but I didn't know what I was going to do for photos. So I knew what I needed, and I just needed to figure out what photos I was going to take. Same thing on the 4th. I knew I was going to have 4 little Polaroids here. What those were, I didn't know until I got there. So there is some planning, but there's also some flexibility in that as well. The 5th, I knew I was going to A Christmas Story. I knew I wanted a big photo of them on the stage, and I would need 2 other ones. I actually ended up taking a few extra because I also wanted to incorporate these cards, so I did little flips. Okay. But again, you know, like the 6th, I knew I was coming back for the holiday party. I had a whole page in here that was ready to hold 2x2 photos and some extra stickers about parties and stuff like that. I ended up getting sick and coming back. Didn't go to the party because I didn't want to make other people sick. And I literally, after flying, barely had the energy to get into bed. And so that page came out because that wasn't the reality of my life on that day. I could have gotten pictures from other people and wrote that story. I put it in my journaling and I felt I was fine. So it does take a little more planning to do pages like this. But you do have the ability to tell the stories that you want to tell because you're ready for them, but also have some flexibility in what's going to be on those particular days. If you want that flexibility, like for instance, this, no idea. zero idea of what was going to happen on the 19th. I just knew that whatever I was going to do, I would need, 7 little pictures. Now, this could have been Christmas baking. This could have been presents that I bought for people. This could have been, different projects that I'm working on. It could have been things around the house that I really, really love. No idea. It ended up that we went to Denver on the 19th. I had to take a day off because I'm maxing out my PTO. And so we went to Denver and I picked up some calf kits and stuff for myself. We went to Buc-ee's. I found some Rudy stuff for a friend who collects it in Canada. So the page was there. I just needed to print out the photos at that size and decrease the photos from that day to 7. So I really, really enjoyed this. Because I had an idea for December and I knew what was kind of happening, that made making the album easier. And also, if some of these days changed, so let's say something had happened and I couldn't go to Atlanta, then, I may have taken this page protector out, and instead of it being 6, I may have just put a 4x4 in here. Still used the 2 cards that I made, but I would have only needed 2 photos then. Okay, and I would have maybe changed this to, here's our Christmas tree because I wanted a big photo here. Or, here's a picture of Pikes Peak or something. I could have easily modified those to kind of work with things. And so that's kind of nice when you are working on albums to have that flexibility. So as I'm going into this year's, there are some things I want to use in my album that are prompts. Now, I haven't mapped out my December yet, but there are some things in here that I really am loving. So this flip here that is the snow globe, and then it's supposed to flip and be the snowman. I like that. In a book like this, it will fit if I bend over that top tab and make that page a flippy in the album, okay? So I won't have the rings. I will actually bend that over and make it a flip in the book. Now that might be, one day. It could be 2 different days. Maybe it's a snow day, and maybe I put the word snow and put the number of the day there. I don't know. I'll kind of see as I'm going through it. Now, does it matter if it snowed on the 10th, if this is what I make as page 10? No, I don't care about that. That's another thing you have to think about. Do you want it to be specific to your day? In some cases, I do. So from the 1st to the 6th, those are all things in Atlanta. I'm not talking about the dog when I'm in Atlanta because the dog's not with me. Okay. We actually adopted him and rescued him on the 18th. So the 18th of December will always be Donnie Day. Okay. We got married on the 16th. That will always be our anniversary. I will always talk a page about us, whether that's something we did for our anniversary, whether it's about us as individuals and who we are, like our ages and what we're enjoying at the time. Other things come up, like I have the crop day. So, that was something new. I started joining the monthly crops. There's a crop day and I needed extra space. So here's a flip page and a group shot of us. Okay. So there is some flexibility with that. Some days will be very specific and other days won't be. There's this great gingerbread house. So this year I plan to do a gingerbread house. Now, whether I do that, in November and I just document it in December, or whether I take pictures the exact day that I did it, it doesn't matter to me. In a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I'm not going to remember. In my 2023 album, pick any day. Did I mail our letters on the 12th? I guarantee I did not mail the letters on the 12th. I usually mail them in November, or the beginning of December. Did Tom work on his man cave wall on the 11th? I have no idea. I don't remember. Does it really matter? No. And if anybody wants to come back to me and be like, it did not snow on the 3rd, okay, I don't care. Okay, it depends on what you want out of your book, though. Depends what you want out of the stories that you're telling. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of different ways that you can approach it. Again, there is a project planner that might help you with that. If there's, key notes and days that you want to make note of, or key products that you want to use, like the gingerbread house for me. There's this great gift package that would be perfect for holding 4 photos. Maybe that's what I use when I'm wrapping gifts. And maybe on the back side of it, I put strips of the wrapping paper, or maybe I do a little collage of the wrapping paper in one of these boxes, or 2 of them. Those are all things that I could potentially work on. I could put on here, key things that I want to do, key notes, to kind of plan out what my album looks like. If you have questions, if you are looking to map out your own album and you need some assistance with that, just let me know and we can chat.